So do I.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, welcome back. We are on the mic, and I have a very special guest today. You might not recognize him because he's not on the team. He's actually my older brother. He was here for a few days from New Jersey, brought the cold with him.
Yeah, that's my bad.
So I figured, I'm like, hey, he's in sales. He's been in sales for a while. It's just a matter of who he was selling to has changed. So figured to bring him in and, show him the set, but also just kind of like catch a vibe. I mean, it's pretty underwhelming.
It looks sick.
It's pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. I mean, the fact that you can do whatever you want in here.
I
know. I mean, I guess that's what the point is.
Because
that's how it's supposed to work.
So Tommy and I are 23 months and 1 day apart. We are, in all intents and purposes, not Irish twins. We're just brothers. And Tommy lives up in Hoboken, New Jersey, right across the river from the Big Apple. Right. And he is in liquor sales. But
yes.
You were always selling liquor. It just mattered who you were selling it to.
Yeah, well, I bartended, as you and most of our family knows. I bartended for about 10 years or so, and it was just a matter of, like, when we were going through whatever other projects were at bay for us, whether that was, like, me thinking about going into acting or whatever that whatever that pipe dream was. The one constant, exactly. The one constant throughout all of that time was the bar was liquor, and our grandfather sold liquor. So
we'll get into that as how you shifted towards now the company that you do work for is something that our grandfather definitely helped build. But it was, and I think this is important with our agents and some of the people who work for us, is passion. And you didn't always have, even if you did have a passion for this, it wasn't you weren't aware of it yet.
It wasn't channeled this way,
because I know exactly how this whole thing formed. It was you started working at a beach bar in New Jersey as a lifeguard. Right. And it was great because, like, there's hot girls, people are drinking, you're on the beach.
It's as prime as you want it to be, and especially as a young kid. Like, we were 15 as ocean lifeguards, and then by the time we got to 18 and we were legal to handle everything.
Right, exactly.
We could go and do that.
But it was like the prime spot on the Jersey Shore that you could really drink on the sand.
Oh, well, yeah. It was like the only place you could do that.
So it was crazy hot. So as soon as, you became old enough to handle booze, it was like you just jumped right into being a bar back.
We would lifeguard during the day. Like, sometimes shower off in the outdoor shower, and then
just jump in the ocean.
Or just jump in the ocean, rinse off, and then put our bartending gear on. Which, that's a loose fitting term.
Yeah, right. It's just a tank top.
And most likely, sometimes I would even bar back or bartend in my guard shorts.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean? Like, why,
there have been many nights where I slept on that beach.
Absolutely. Or things that probably should never hear like the light of day. With we lifeguarded until about noon when really we were sleeping. And
Taylor fell asleep on the stand because he's like 3 Goombay smashes deep or something.
Yeah. Well, we had set up a small whatever. At that place, people always left stuff behind. So whenever we cleaned the beach in the morning, there was always undoubtedly there was something there.
Shoes, chairs,
towels,
and then hoodie, sweatshirts,
exactly. So we would just form a little campsite and then fall asleep or take shifts on the lifeguard stand.
Underneath the stand, somebody was up top with sunglasses on and a towel around the necklace to make it look like they were looking at the water, but they were sound asleep.
Yeah. Which probably is illegal to say. We probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but
it's statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations has since exists. Yeah,
but that brings you into, you found passion in liquor and booze and the bar and bartending. And then you got into the creative side, obviously becoming a bartender. And then essentially, and it's kind of like one of my favorite movie relationships. It's like everybody always confides in the bartender. So you kind of are building, and no one looks at that as the relationship. So when somebody comes into the bar and you're trying to sell them on new liquor you guys got in, or because you want to make a cool drink or whatever it is, it's because you have the relationship.
Well, there's so much more psychology to it than people give it credit for. There are obviously the antiquated version of the bartender who was the out of work person who that's the only thing that they could do was serve tables or be a bartender. That has evolved over time. And I think that one of the things that people don't give the modern bartender enough credit for in that exact example is that there's so much more psychology to identifying who the person is that's sitting across from you, identifying sure, from the sales perspective, are check averages building a part of it? Sure. Are just having somebody that comes in there and only ever has one beer, right? Like they're like your at home regular, right? Or they're on the way home regular type of thing.
Right.
Where like my MO was always, if somebody came in and physically told me they were only there for one drink, it was my job to make them stay for 3. Right.
Right.
Or my whole thing too was like, and in your example as well, is like there's a hospitality umbrella now that has fully overcome that antiquated version of what we knew to be. Like there's a great line in Californication when Hank Moody, somebody calls him a writer, and he's like, yeah, well, I haven't written any in a while, so soon to be Hank Moody the bartender, or you know what I mean? And like that
it's
idea.
Like it's always been the fallback when not realizing it's the number one person you'd confide into and talk to, because you can walk in, talk to a bartender, and start building this rapport, and then be like, all right, we'll see ya, and then like get up and leave.
And you can never see that person again, or that person becomes somebody that you do see quite often.
Exactly.
And when we train people, and I trained people over the years of being a manager or being somebody who, again, was put in charge of training any of the new people, you know, again, the sales aspect of it is always part of it. And I always said, like, I can teach you physically how to bartend in a day.
Right.
I can teach you how to hold bottles. I can teach you how, you know, where the speed rack goes and where the house brands and all that goes, and a quick crash course on all the liquor. But it's about who you are bringing to that table, right? Like, it's
who
just
you're talking to, and everyone's
there's
different.
so much more than that. And like your regulars are the ones that I always said, your new business that comes in, that's your spending money. The regulars keep the lights on, right? So you need to keep those people in, so you have a nest, you know.
And that's people. What we always preach here is that, and you just kind of nailed it when you said, you know, you can come in, somebody talk to somebody, and then never see them again. Is just because you've built rapport doesn't mean, oh, okay, I had a great conversation with Tommy.
Right.
Like, I'll talk to him again in 2.5 weeks because he knows me. We had a great conversation.
Right.
I know he's looking for a house. He knows me. I'm a realtor.
Right.
And then you call back and it's like, oh yeah, I'm under contract with somebody else. It's like, that's why it's a contact sport.
Oh,
so like if you
sure.
don't see that person again, or maybe, hey, I haven't seen you in a few weeks. You're trying to catch up, find out what's going on.
Right.
So that way they'll feel more comfortable coming back in.
Well, and there's
that spot.
There's a people aspect to all of this too. Like this industry where you guys are now, like it's just as much of you're collecting relationships, you're collecting people, right? And like if you're somebody who can take, like I said, some people don't give the psychological side of it enough credit, because you really have to break people down to a certain point so that you can understand how you relate to them.
Sure.
Are there things that you relate to? Sometimes the only relatable thing is that you remembered something about them, and like they appreciate the fact that you remembered, like for example, what they drank, right? Like there are so many times where I built a group of regulars because I remembered that one time that person came in, that's what they drank.
Right.
And everybody has a system of doing that, and out there I'm sure that like you have their system of remembering who all these clients are, and their sales cycles are obviously a little bit longer, you know, and I take that.
I mean, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes people are in a hurry, or people think they're in a hurry, or you have to paint the picture of, hey, you should be in more of a hurry, because if you're like trying to beat the school year, or you're trying to get inside of a holiday or whatever, it's like
if you're dragging your heels, it's not going to work.
Yeah, so like you always want to make sure that you're the expert, which when you're behind the bar, they assume you're the expert.
Always.
So we don't have we don't have the bar in this case, because you're never walking down the street and you just be like, oh yeah, that's Tommy, my local bartender, and then you're just gonna be like, hey, can you make me a drink right now? It's like, well, we're standing on the corner of 5th and
whatever,
like,
right? Exactly. Like,
so we don't have that. You're calling people on the phone, or you're texting them or emailing them, so you're trying to constantly say, hey, I'm the authority, whether it's using your reviews or using our website, using our social media to put yourself in the position you already are, standing behind the bar.
And the resources are something that a lot of people sometimes tend to forget that they're even there. There are people that are very resourceful in that regard, where they lean on their resources all the time. And there are a lot of people that are very independent of that, where they think that they can figure it out on their own. And like a lot of what you just said too, like there's a great Boiler Room, quote, but also like what you take away from that is the act as if speech that Ben Affleck gives. Act as if, I don't care if you've never driven this car, act as if you have. Or whatever
That's
it is.
it.
And for at the bar, when I worked at the Fig and Olive in Manhattan, 5th and 52nd Street, you're right off Rockefeller Center. You're right next to St. Patrick's Cathedral. You're getting a lot of people from all over the planet who, again, treat you like the professional person, the expert, in a very international, kind of casual fine dining, but extensive wine list type of Mediterranean style
they
restaurant.
always refer to your judgment more often than not.
And I had to, when I first started there, a buddy of mine who was running the restaurant kind of just like threw me in. He's like, "Oh, you're fine. You'll figure it out." And in a sense, you have to, right? Like that's how our grandfather taught us how to swim. He threw us in the deep end. He's like, "You better get over here, or you're
gonna die.
You're going down." Yeah, but
you're gonna die.
But at the same time, again, like you're looking at that as sort of this like this act as if, where you better look like, and I've trained people that way too. It's like if I can teach you how to pick up a bottle out of the rail, right? That one simple skill can make you feel that much more confident, so that when somebody does ask you a question that you don't know, your confidence shows through that action, right?
And that's to play off that. That's why we have our new agents always shadowing some of our veteran agents on showings, and that's why we have people in the office listening to other people on the phone, so you can hear how so and so is doing it. Because that's it. If you just know of a great way to handle even one objection, it's going to make you so much more confident going into a phone call.
Because it's also experience too. Like you've experienced it, you've gone through it, you know exactly what that feels like.
That is why it's so huge.
Exactly. And like again, for what we do now, and for even these guys out here, like your and my ability to, and I've always kind of like tried to allocate it this way as a metaphor, but every bar stool, when you work at a bar, every bar stool has a number, $sign attached to it, right? So like you can look at however you want to look at your pipeline, your roster, whatever you want to call it, your account list, your customers. Everybody has a $sign attached to it, and you don't have to think of it that way if you don't want to. But you know, we're not non-for-profit, right? So you're there to do a job. But again, identifying them and setting it up your own way. Where, like I said, this is bar 1 and 2 seats are these new kids that I've never seen before, right? So like, let's see what we can do and squeeze out of them. Let's get to know them and see if there's somebody who did they just move to the neighborhood,
right?
You know, I made a massive habit of the first thing I did when somebody sat down at the bar was shook their hand and said, and introduced myself. Because if you're a stranger at this bar, right, most likely, not only just to this bar, but most likely you're a stranger in this area.
Sure.
Not all the time, but you could be.
But more often than not, you're not just like, oh, yeah, we just walked 50 blocks. We figured here's where we're going to stop.
This is where we're going to stop, right. So I would always introduce myself because, again, if you knew nobody walking into the bar, now you do. And you know the person that most likely can pull the strings that if you have any questions or whatever it is.
They're also the person that's supposed to primarily help you. So
Correct.
to make them feel comfortable, they have no problem asking you for more. And you have no problem being like, hey, why don't we get another one before we head out?
And immediately their guard comes down a little bit more because now we're not strangers, we're friends. Right.
And then pepper and liquor, and then everyone's courage rises.
Everybody's courage rises. But it's even still, it's like then you find a way to, that's why your regulars are so important, or even like in this instance too, like your past experiences or your closures and stuff like that, like you can, or referrals, I guess you want to call them.
Right.
Because if I had a regular sitting next to somebody's that's new, guess what? Now that new person knows me, and now they're getting introduced to this guy.
Right.
So now those people are talking, so that I can go and handle something else that's going on over there.
Right.
So that this
make them stay longer, make them drink that drink.
Exactly. And then again, to the opposite side of that, if you identify this person as somebody that like for sure doesn't want to talk to somebody, like leave me the hell alone type of vibe, like you got
you're not going to shout out and be like, hey, this is Bethany from across the bar, he's got his head down.
Definitely talk to that guy.
He's got his head down, he's sulking, he's basically falling asleep in his drink. Why don't you come on down?
He walked in and yelled at me super hard, so I want you to go and meet everybody else.
Right.
And but again, like if you on the psychological side, like you're still handling a book of business, right? So identifying those people,
right, and shaping whatever the sale is to that person. So people still need it. People still need the home. People still need whatever it is. But don't, because it worked really well on Bill and Diane, go do the same thing with Jesse and Jim because. Right, but they are totally
100%. And most of those people don't want friends. They don't need you to be their friend. They just want.
I don't need any more friends.
Yeah, we're done now. Yeah, I'm on overload. But the thing that always got me is like, and I think that helped me personally was that, and you can't. It's tough to teach that side of it.
Right.
So it is part of, like you said, shadowing and then like allowing somebody to have that experience. But for me, again, it was like my ability to, and I tried to, and I thank whoever was able to bestow this skill, I would think, on me, but like identifying these people so that I can allocate my service to that person.
Right.
Because like you said, no two things are the same. Just because it worked with somebody doesn't mean it's going to work with this person. And like I said before, just because you're friends with this customer, these customers, they don't want friends. They want a salesperson. They want you to be their confidant. They want you to be somebody that feeds them the right.
Yeah.
information, and then we'll go on.
Well,
We'll shake hands and we'll move on.
And that transitions to what you're doing now. So now you're still selling liquor, but instead of selling it, which we used to joke retail 1-to-1,
Right.
you're wholesaling it to the actual bar, the business.
Right. So I work for.
But it's the same relationship. So you're going to walk into, because we even on the car ride this morning, you were even telling me about clients. You're like, you could call client X on the phone. Hey, all right, cool. I'll see you next week. Like, you guys are on autopilot, but like, I'll come in when I got some new product, whatever it is. These people are like, do not call them on the phone. They're not going to answer.
Exactly.
It's difficult to communicate, whatever it is. You got to go see them in
gotta
person.
go see them, yeah.
Everybody is being handheld differently.
Right. Well, and again, for now, transitioning to what I do now, I work for a wine and liquor distribution company in New Jersey. And New Jersey is very particular, not to go into too much detail, but it's particular because there are certain laws with the ABC and within the confines of our state lines that allow us to do specific things that other states don't do. Or are permitted to do. And so, like you said, most of my accounts are, or all my accounts are liquor license holding businesses in the state of New Jersey that are liquor stores or bars and restaurants.
Right, which differs from Florida here, where you can get beer and wine at gas stations or anywhere that doesn't have a liquor license, which you'd still would be able to service if you were selling liquor, like if you were a Florida liquor store.
I don't know how with the laws of the ABC, I don't know how that works. I don't know if there's because beer is also governed differently than wine and liquor in New Jersey as well. So
it might
be a little bit different, right? But at the same time, though, you're still a part of something where now, from the legal standpoint of being a bartender and the relationships that you knew how to cultivate from that side of it, and the explanations that you have to, things that you have to explain on that side of it. A lot of that transfers over to what I'm doing now because I can bring my experiences to the bars and the restaurants that I'm now selling to.
Right.
And because one of the things that always kept me from, and I know we've talked about this before, one of the things that always kept me from doing this earlier in my life was I saw what the young guns that were 22 or 23 fresh out of college that were I'm selling booze, dude, and they come in, they try to chum it up, and they talk to you
you
your old war
no
buddies.
Relationship building skills.
I'm like, dude, we're not. I'm nice to everybody. I will be nice to you. That's fine. But that doesn't just because you
cutting you a check, right?
Just because you came in here and you said oh, dude, you played soccer or you played baseball in high school and college, dope. So did I. We're best buddies now. Buy this $6,000 worth of booze. I'm that's just not how it works. You know? And then I don't see him for 3 months.
And that's what we preach to these people all the time is there is going to be a situation where you pick up that phone or that phone rings and it is somebody that's just totally hot and needs somebody to help a transaction find a home. Right. Great. But more often than not, it's a house. So it's just going to be as big of a purchase as picking up $10,000, $12,000 worth of booze for your bar
your
as purchasing a home.
Right.
Because so it's not you have to understand things about that person, their needs, why they're doing what they're doing, why they're looking for that home, why they're So you're hey, we have a big problem. Right now our menu, and I remember you telling me specifically, establishment wanted to work on their dessert menu and their dessert side of it. And you're okay, so then you need to come up with some sort of dessert cocktail or something that's going to pair with that because more often than not, someone's going to try a dessert beverage than they're going to try eating cake because they're not going to equate the drink in calories to
like
people just see cake and they're like,
oh
cake,
yeah,
I can't have cake.
Right?
Oh, I'll have that espresso martini with Bailey's and and all this other stuff. Right?
Or, yeah, like I did, like you said, I did a dessert menu that had Godiva chocolate liqueur and all these the sugar the sugar vodkas and all that. So it ends up being like $3,000 or $2,500 or $3,000 worth of $3,000, 2,500 or 3,000 calories in a drink, and you don't think about that on the drink side. You think about that from the other side, from the food side. But for these guys too, it's like if you have somebody that is looking for a certain type of house or a certain price range, you're not going to show them something completely. Here's our budget, $450,000 or $500,000, whatever it is. You're not going to take them to a house that's $750,000 or $800,000. Right, because you'd be like, what the hell are you showing me this for? It's like the property brothers, like, this is what it could be. This is what it should look like when we're done with the renovation. But like, we're not doing renovations. We're just selling you the house. Right. So it's like I want to make sure that I'm fitting your, because that's the one thing I always get about. Like I always crack up about with the shows and stuff. It's like you have three options. Where I know that there's a bunch of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but there's just like. if you have somebody that's asking you, these are the specs that I have, right? This is what I'm asking for. This is what I want. You know, I'm not going to take you somewhere that completely makes absolutely no sense. You know, like I even had that when I was auditioning for acting and commercials and stuff.
Right.
Like, my agent had sent me to what's it called? To a go-see or to an audition for like hockey players that were like, I saw the breakdowns. Like, you had to be 5'10" or 6 foot, blonde hair, and you had to have played hockey for at least 5 years because
did
they
anybody
wanted.
read this?
I'm 5'7" on the best day that I've ever had.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know, like, and I played hockey for like a half a year at some point when we were kids. Like,
right.
This is not
I
me.
fit the
Like,
bill perfectly.
right.
Yeah.
Like, for my agent, I call my agent. I'm like, why did I go to this? This was a waste of my time.
Right.
I could have gone to 5 other things that would have been worth it for me. And now I do the same thing with my job. Do you have an idea of what budget you want to keep, whether it's by the week, by the month, by the year, whatever? And part of my job, too, is to be just as much of a consultant as it is a salesperson.
Right.
I have goals. We have products that we want to push. My company has things that they want to make sure that people see, or that are on shelves, that are on back bars, that are on menus.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from where I came from as a mixologist, you know, my whole thing was being more into the creation of the drink itself, not necessarily the brands that were on the page.
Right.
Now I have to be conscious of both of those things. Right? Like, I don't have to be loyal. It's like those people that don't want to sell their ranches to the big banks because they want to develop a hotel.
Right.
You know, like, I'm not about the money. This is my family's land for 25 years.
Right.
You know, and like, for me, that was the same thing with brands for the longest time. Like, I don't care what goes in here. These are the things that I think work in
Right.
this. I don't care if I have support from the supplier
Right.
or if I have, you know, all that stuff. So now I do the same thing. You have to tailor to what you're looking for.
Right. So now, before we wrap up, this is such a cool story. So you get to, now you're privy to these things because you've graduated and because you're so good at people, relationship building, talking to people, dealing with people, understanding their needs, etc. Because you developed that skill, you've so far exercised that muscle over such a long period of time. You have been in some pretty cool circles. So you were on the Kendall Jenner 818 Zoom.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That was cool.
That was super cool. Zooming with Kendall Jenner was you and your team.
That was really funny too because they structured their company as a real, you know, a full-blown business. So the CEO of the company is an old-timer in the industry, but she for some reason had a filter on her Zoom, so the whole time he was talking, he had like red lipstick. Yeah. She was like trying to figure out why it was happening. She's like, I can't figure it out. I can't turn it off.
Right.
She was very funny, very nice. But yeah, he was like this old, 70-plus-year-old guy, and he had lipstick on the whole time.
Right. So that's cool. Well, and we'll flash some of these on the screens if you have some of the screenshots.
Right.
I know you have pictures from the next one is you were at a dinner in Manhattan, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Brian Cranson and Aaron Paul because they're launching or have launched since
we sell
Dos
their
Hombres.
Mezcal. Yeah, we sell their mezcal.
Now they're brand exclusive.
But the exclusivity part of all that too is very New Jersey based because it's the type of laws that you're talking about. But yeah, we sell their
so
mezcal.
you jumped in there and you were invited to a dinner. It was you guys and but again, right off the bat, and it's funny because we'll flash some of the photos on screen. You're talking to Aaron Paul,
right?
Who obviously was in Breaking Bad, and it's just like you think you can't relate to these people, and here you are sitting down to dinner, and the first thing you guys just start chumming up about are just like the Loci bracelets.
Yeah.
Because he saw it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like my buddy is the guy who started that."
Yeah,
and then you guys immediately start just going back and forth, and the guard's down again.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like finding anybody.
But that's the whole thing too. Is like you these are celebrities. These are people that literally talk to people for professionally on a much super high stakes level. And like you said, like the guard goes down, and by the end of this dinner, I mean, they were amazing people. They were super nice. Probably the coolest people that I think I've ever met of a celebrity
of that stature.
They were just so cool. And if you didn't know who they were, you would have no idea who they were. Like, that's how cool they were.
Right.
And like you said, like it was that by the end of that, we were like making plans to like hang out with them again. Like
and
when they were like, when we do this next tour, like we have to make sure that we do this, and this.
Right.
And
that's my point is that you, in 5 minutes, because you've exercised that muscle, you've done it time and time again, can do that with someone like that to where it doesn't even feel fake. Where they're super nice.
It's not forced.
Nice anyway. Right. It's immediately found one thing. It happened to be like a fairly significant, we'll call it one thing.
Right.
But that's immediately where the guard came down. and you were able to dig further, and learn more about them, talk about them, learn more about what they wanted, where they saw the brand going, which is exactly what people are doing when they're talking to people looking to buy a home.
Right. Well, that's the one sales tactic that a lot of people talk about when you get trained as a salesperson is listening. Like you have to listen.
Yeah.
Without listening, if you go and steamroll through people, I as a young salesman, believe me, and I talk just as much as anybody, if not more. I did that. I steamrolled through my script and just like saying, I heard they said one thing and I had 5 objections or 5 pushbacks I was ready to come back with. You gotta listen.
Right, you have to listen.
You have to.
And we were shooting a video out here where DJ was talking on the phone, and in the background, one of our agents, who I guess grew up kind of near like the Rochester area of New York, was talking about ice fishing, and somebody, again, just with the loci bracelet, sheer happenstance, is on the phone with somebody who was saying something about ice fishing. She's like, I grew up ice fishing, blah, blah, blah. And just the conversation just took off.
Right.
And immediately she's looking for homes. She has his trust, vice versa. She's calling him now.
Right.
And it's more of a, hey, this is Todd with the DJ&Lindsey team. It's like, hey, John, it's Todd. What's going on?
Right,
so here, this is what I got going on down here. I think these houses are going to be really great. It's there.
Right.
The relationship is there.
And
now she can contact him without feeling like she's pitching him anything or that it's a sales call.
That's the one thing too, is that you want to make sure that these people don't feel like, if anybody does that, if you feel like you're getting talked to or you're getting pitched, automatically there's going to be a guard that goes up. And again, like I don't claim to know everything about the industry and all of that and how to do things. I'm a big fan of everybody has their own way of doing it. Everybody has their own speed, their own technique. But I'm just a big fan of like, and our grandfather was very much like this.
Right.
And I have people that are like this now too. It's like, if you don't know you're being sold, right? It's as that's the whole thing.
It's painless.
Like, right. And for lack of a better example, like when you can go in and out of surgery and you had no idea what just happened, but you know that everything that you did was fixed or everything that was needed to be fixed was fixed and you were fine, that's good. If you can sell somebody and they had no idea what was happening during that time,
right.
You're
a magician, yeah.
You could be buddies with that person, or it could be just somebody that like they don't want to be friends, but your a rapport that you've built, you can just say, hey, listen, like you said, some people have that high energy, like you got to do this before it gets
right.
Or there are some people that have the relationship that it's like, they'll curse at these people and just be like, dude, you're being an idiot. Like,
right.
Don't pass up on this, right?
Yeah.
Don't pass up on this because somebody was being a dick to you, like, don't do that. So
you wind up forcing it, you're just not gonna be.
No, yeah,
you're not gonna find the results you want.
Be yourself, be comfortable. Like that's what people respond to. Like people can see when you're fake. People can see when you're putting it on, you're forcing it, and you don't want that.
Well, I appreciate you coming down. Obviously, I know you're super proud of me. Thanks, man.
No, seriously, I think this is a great.
I'm thankful you came down. I'm super proud of you. Obviously, the longest road ever, but it's because you knew exactly what it takes to thrive at that level, and I think that's a vision in itself. It's high level goal planning and goal execution. But as fun as this was, get the hell out because it's been cold as hell ever since you got here.
No. Dude, I'm telling you, as soon as I leave, the sun's gonna come out. It's gonna be 70 degrees tomorrow.
It's gonna be 100% gorgeous tomorrow. But anyway,
exactly.
I appreciate you coming down.
Yeah,
appreciate you
thanks
talking
for having me.
I
appreciate it. Thank you,
and
guys.
We'll see you guys. I don't know, next time. Who knows?
Thank you.
Later.